So far in Sass, we've looked at nesting, selector inheritance, and variables, but now we're going to take a look at mixins, which are perhaps the most powerful Sass feature of all. In the last video, we learned that Sass features some built-in functions. However, Sass also has mixins, which basically allow you to reuse blocks of code and create your own functions. Now, if you don't have Sass, watching your Sass file now would be a good time to do that. I know I've mentioned this a few times, but it's worth repeating because it's a very common mistake for people to forget to do this. Alright, now let's say that we wanted to apply a special set of border radii to some of our divs to create a teardrop effect. We'll round off the upper left and lower right corners, and we'll leave the upper right and lower left corners squared off. This actually requires a surprising amount of markup because the CSS3 border radius property isn't quite a standard yet. To make it work across various browsers, we need to have multiple versions of the property. So let's go ahead and code this up for our sidebar first. So we'll go ahead and scroll down to our sidebar here, which is right here. And let's go ahead and code this up. So we'll say WebKit border top left radius, say about 30 pixels, and then we'll say Mozilla border radius top left 30 pixels, and then we need the normal border top left radius 30 pixels, and that'll cover the top left. Now we need to do the bottom right. So we'll say WebKit border bottom right radius 30 pixels, Mozilla border radius bottom right 30 pixels, and then finally border bottom right radius 30 pixels. And when we go back to the browser and refresh, as you can see, we now have rounded corners on the upper left and bottom right corners of our sidebar. That's all well and good, but what if we wanted to put this onto other elements of our site, like the posts that we have here? Well, there's a couple different approaches. We could just copy and paste all of these properties, but that's pretty sloppy and bad practice. We're repeating tons of code and making it more difficult to maintain by doing that. We could also create a class called Teardrop and apply these properties and then apply the Teardrop class to all of the divs in our markup where we want to have that styling. But again, in a larger website, that can be pretty difficult to maintain. It's also not a good idea to make tons of little classes like that and sprinkle them all over your code because it generates all types of problems that I won't go into here. A much better approach is to create a Sass mixin. This allows you to keep your CSS separated from your HTML markup as much as possible, and it also allows you to not repeat yourself. So let's go ahead and put this code into a mixin. First, we'll go ahead and scroll up to the top here, and we'll create another flag where we can store our mixins. So go ahead and type that out there. Now I should point out right now that I'm just including these variables in mixins in a single file with the rest of my Sass code just for the sake of simplicity. In a larger website, it's probably a good idea for you to split these out into separate files for better organization. So now we can go ahead and create a mixin, and we'll call it Teardrop. And what we're going to want to do is take all of that code that we just created and cut it, and then up in our mixin, we will go ahead and paste it right in there. There we go. Now let's look at the syntax here. You declare a mixin by typing the @ symbol, the word mixin, and then the name of your mixin. Nested inside of your mixin, you type the CSS properties that you'd like to use. Now that we've created our mixin, we can actually use it in our code. So we'll go ahead and apply it to our sidebar just like we did before. So right here, we'll go ahead and include Teardrop. And let's go ahead and apply it to our posts as well. and that's up in the content area right here. And when we switch back to the browser and refresh, as you can see, we now have the teardrop effect applied to our sidebar and also to our posts. Now, just to emphasize how easy this is, let's go ahead and throw it onto the pictures as well. So switching back to our code, we'll go ahead and copy our include teardrop here, and we'll put it on the pictures. And when we switch back and refresh, now our pictures also have this teardrop effect. Now, once you have a few mix-ins like this, it's really easy to just play around with them and apply different effects to different page elements. By now you've seen how useful Sass mix-ins can be, but in the next video, we're going to learn how to make our mix-ins even more powerful.